This is a 128 square metre, 3-bedroom house built in the front yard of a subdivided section here in Upper Hutt. Coming up, we'll show you footage of the build from start to finish. I'll break down the design and we'll discuss elements of the build in detail. Stick around to the end of the video to see this amazing finished home. You might have noticed on this channel a number of our jobs are subdivided sections where we're building in the front or the back of an existing section. The rules have changed recently to allow intensification. This means that previously where we could only build one house, now we can build 2, 3, 4, and it means that we're adding more homes to the system. Basically, we are not building enough homes for the number of people coming into the country wanting to live in homes. And I don't know about you, but I like living in a home. You can see here that 33B was already a rear lot down a shared driveway, and the front yard was getting chopped off and providing a new section. The old section was 771 square meters, including a half share of the right-of-way, and the new section was just over 400 square meters of that, including the half share of the right-of-way. One of the first things we do with any project like this is get a topographical survey. This shows you a lay of the land, the high points, the low points, marks things like the sewer going through this section, where the manholes are, where our new connections will go. Once we've got a topographical survey, we can get what's called a finished floor level. The finished floor level here, 86,430, is in relation to these heights here. You can see that it is about 300 mils above. So once we've got building consent approved, we can rip into work on site. We needed to remove the carport in the shed here, and we needed to prepare a new driveway area. As well as that, we needed to scrape all the topsoil off the proposed building platform. Early on, it's real important to build a fence between the old property, especially if someone's still living in it, and the new property that we're building. So demolition's complete. We've removed topsoil and replaced it with compacted base course. Now we're ready for the surveyors to come and mark out the build. We like to use a surveyor for every one of our builds, especially on subdivisions. It helps us make sure everything's going where it should. So we've put a fence up here. This helps the old house have its own space, keeps things safe, and we are now ready to crack on with our foundations. Before we can do the foundations, the plumber needs to come in and lay all his drains. This can be a little bit demoralizing because we've just made everything nice and flat and mint, and then they come and dig it up. At the same time, we had to dig up the subdivision drain and put in the new sewer and the new stormwater, and now we're ready for boxing. The boxing is put to the right dimensions and the right height, and we now then use that to set out our polystyrene pods. You can see on this page here, we have a slab design of a riprap concrete foundation, and it shows you where the pods start as a full pod, where the cut pods will be, and also even where saw cuts are going to go, where extra reinforcing goes in the corners, where the garage door rebate is, and this is what the builders use to get the foundations ready for concrete. Once the foundations have been signed off by the engineer and the council inspector, we are now ready for concrete. We'll get in a concrete pump, we'll get in concrete trucks and the concrete places, and it's all go. We pour the concrete, smooth it out, and give it a final float finish. Now that the slab is down, you can also help us lift our subs up. Go ahead, click subscribe, keep following along. The concrete will be firm enough for us to walk on and strip the boxing within 24 hours, but will take a full 28 days to fully cure. Once we've stripped the boxing, we clear the site, and this is a really exciting time. We now have a flat, smooth foundation to stand on, and I like to say the job is well and truly set in stone. On this one here, we had COVID-related delays at the Prenail factory, and so we opted to build the frames ourselves. Our guys cracked into this, cutting all the studs, dwangs, top plates, bottom plates, set it all out, and nailed it all together on site. This is a great experience for the boys, and a good reminder that as builders, we can still do all of this ourselves. Now that frames are up, we can start to see the lay of the land and how this final home will look and feel. This is a great time to take a look at the floor plan. Let's take a walk around. Coming in the front door here, you go into an open plan kitchen, living, dining with a gully style kitchen and an island breakfast bar bench and nice big sliding doors off to a patio in the front. Down to the back of the kitchen, you have access way into the hallway. Really clever design here with minimizing the hallways and the thoroughfares. Off to the right hand side you have 2 bedrooms and a main bathroom in between them, and down in the northeast corner you have the master bedroom with a walk-in wardrobe and an ensuite. In the front of the building here we have a single garage with internal access. This is a really well designed floor plan and there's a lot of house here in 128 square meters. So once the frames are stood, we can now order our pre-nailed trusses. These can't be built on site by a builder anymore because you need to use a hydraulic press to push the nail plates together that hold the whole truss system together. And this is signed off by the factory to say that it meets the strength requirements. So these pre-nailed trusses get delivered to site. We crane them onto the frames and we start standing them. We'll crack on with roof framing. This includes purlins, building any additional framing required for the fascia and the soffits, putting in any valleys, and getting ready for fascia install, spouting install, and the roofer to show up and do their bit. The roof on this one is corrugated iron. If you haven't already, watch our video about why New Zealanders love metal roofs. This one here has a 25-degree full and a few hips and a few valleys. Really simple design, nothing too crazy for a roofer to install. You can see on these plans a couple of the details. In the left-hand corner here, we have some steel strip roof bracing. As well as that, you have the soffit line here marked, and you'll notice that the total roof is 153 square meters, 428 square meter build. There's 2 reasons that the roof is bigger than the floor print. Number 1, the angle of the roof, the 25-degree, means that there is extra length in the sheets, and also because the roof extends out 450 mils beyond the footprint of the building. These 2 things mean that the roof is covering more site area than the floor print. So once the roof is on, we put the building wrap on, we put the windows in, we complete all the flashing details. That gets inspected for what's called a pre-clad inspection, and now we can crack on with cladding. Cladding on this one, we're going with James Hardy linear weatherboard and linear oblique vertical. At the time there was massive COVID delays and we had to put this order in the system 30 weeks before we needed the product. You can see here that the linear oblique starts on an internal corner, wraps around this part of the living, kitchen, dining, and moves back into the building, finishes on an internal corner, and then the rest of the building is linear weatherboard run horizontally. Moving inside, we now can get on with pre-wire, pre-plumb and insulation. Once we've got all of that in the walls and inspected, we can crack on with plasterboard. One thing we need to think about when building in winter, which let's face it is about 6 months of the year here in New Zealand, is that frames get wet. They get wet from 2 things: exposure to the rain, but also exposure to moisture in the air. And to counteract that, we need to meet a moisture test before lining the walls, and the council will sign this off. They go around with a moisture meter and make sure that all the internal framing is 18% or less. Now, in the depths of winter, this can be really hard to achieve, and we may have to run dehumidifiers like we did on this build here to get the moisture content down. The dehumidifiers do an effective job at getting the entire house's moisture content down below 18% so we can continue lining the walls. So the boys will put plasterboard on the walls. Here in New Zealand, we use jib mostly, and the jib will have bracing elements in it. This is denoted on this plan here. So we follow that plan, screw it off as per the manufacturer's specifications, and then we get that inspected before we can plaster and paint. Now that it's been inspected, the plasterer comes in and does his job, painter comes in, and this is where it starts turning from a house into a home. The client's color choices and fixtures and fittings start to get installed, and the house starts to have its own personal touch. Once the walls are painted, we can install the kitchen, cabinetry, and measure up the stone bench. While we wait for the stone bench to get cut and made in the factory, we'll do the hard floor, the soft floor. We'll do as much as we can in the bathrooms, and we'll wait for that bench top to come and get installed, and then we do our final fit off. Now the house is complete inside, and at the same time we have been working on the landscaping outside. We put a patio down, we put a slat fence up, and we'll even put the planting in. Let's take a look at the finished home. This is a really fun project to be a part of. I love the subdivision process, and I love standing back and seeing a brand new house pop up where there wasn't one before. We're pretty proud of the final product. If you've got a project like this that you'd love us to be a part of, reach out.